This whole idea of owning a piece of a real building, maybe without all the usual headaches, it's becoming, well, more real with tokenized assets.
Hmm.
It's definitely opening up some interesting pathways for people looking for new ways to invest.
Absolutely. And, while the blockchain side can seem a bit daunting, really, it often just comes down to representing something tangible, real world value.
Yeah.
That's really the key to understanding the potential here.
Right. And that's kind of where we're headed with our deep dive today. We're not actually going to dive deep into the token tech itself, not just yet anyway.
Hmm.
Instead, we're looking at how a company that builds the physical stuff actually works.
Mm.
We're digging into Sekisui House.
Seikisui House, yeah. They're a huge name in Japan, especially in the built-to-order housing scene. We're using a report that details their business, their strategies,
Okay.
looking at how they handle everything from, single custom homes right up to these big urban developments. And they do this in Japan and internationally, too.
So think of it like this. You need to understand the foundation,
Yeah.
right? Before you think about buying a digital piece of the building itself.
Good analogy.
So our mission, really, is to get a solid grasp on what Sekisui House actually does, their main goals, their strategy, how they approach building and managing real estate.
Yeah.
Because that foundational knowledge, it's super valuable if you're even thinking about investing in tokenized assets linked to real estate or, similar things later on.
It really gives you context. It's crucial context, actually, understanding how a company like Sekisui House, successful, innovative, operates,
Right.
especially how they focus on quality, long-term value. That helps you size up the potential and the risks, too, of maybe future tokenized deals in this area.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so let's unpack this. At its heart, what does Sekisui House do? What's their core business?
Well, their main model is what they call built to order. Basically, they design and build custom houses, also rental housing, but it's based on contracts. Contracts with customers who, importantly, already own the land. Their work falls into three main buckets: custom detached houses, rental housing, and architectural civil engineering.
So if I had a plot of land in Japan, I could theoretically hire Sekisui House to build my specific dream home on it.
That's the idea, yeah. And what's interesting, especially thinking about potential investments down the line, is how they segment things.
How so?
Within the custom detached houses part, they run a three-brand strategy. It's based on price like 30 million plus, up to 20 million, and then a really high-end one starting from 50 million.
Wow, okay. Big range.
Yeah, and each brand has different specs, different lifestyle ideas attached. It shows they really understand the market isn't just one thing,
That would make sense.
which is, something to think about if these kinds of assets ever got tokenized for different investor types.
Right. Tailoring the offering. What about the rental side?
Their rental business focuses on really high-quality places, almost like hotel quality, they say,
Mm-hmm.
especially in what they call S&A areas. Think strategic urban locations where they want to grow. Quality and performance are big buzzwords there.
Got it. And the architectural civil engineering bit, is that more like big infrastructure stuff?
Yeah, that tends to handle the larger scale construction. But it's interesting, the core idea, building on customer-owned land under contract, that's still pretty central across the board.
Okay.
So maybe less risk tied up in buying land speculatively compared to, say, developers building tracts of homes hoping someone will buy them.
Okay, so it's primarily a service, really, built around land people already have. Not so much huge speculative development.
Right.
That's a really key difference, isn't it?
It is.
Especially when you think about risk profiles for potential tokenized real estate.
Yeah.
Okay, looking forward then. What are the big strategic priorities? What's on the horizon?
Well, their latest plan, the fifth midterm management plan, lays out a few key things. A big one is really pushing harder on marketing in those S&A urban areas we mentioned.
Right, the strategic zones.
Yeah. And they're also putting a lot of emphasis on their core tech, their innovations.
Core tech.
Yeah.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Sure. Things like ZEH, that's net zero energy houses.
Okay, Z.
Their Sheka system, which is for seismic control, very important in Japan.
Makes sense.
And AirKiss, which manages indoor air quality. But what's really interesting is they're not just like listing technologies, they're weaving them into actual lifestyle proposals.
Ah,
The fact they're investing so heavily in net zero energy homes, ZEH, That's pretty significant. For someone holding a token, potentially representing a share in that property,
Yeah.
that could mean lower running costs, maybe better long-term value because, sustainability is increasingly in demand.
Lifestyle proposals.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're selling more than just four walls and a roof.
Exactly. Think concepts like family suite focusing on open, connected spaces, or Regnum Court, which sounds more upscale,
Yeah.
high-end, and something called the platform house concept, which seems to be about flexible, adaptable living. They're essentially wrapping their tech into a vision of how people might want to live.
So selling a lifestyle enabled by their building tech. Okay, interesting. What other directions are they heading in?
Well, they're also trying to sharpen their brand identity for different buyers, clearly targeting first-timers, the mainstream market, and then the super high-spec buyers.
Makes sense.
And significantly, they're expanding into corporate real estate CRE and public real estate PRE.
CRE and PRE, how does that fit in?
This is where they use their building and development know-how to help companies or even government bodies make better use of the properties they already own.
Yeah, asset optimization.
Exactly. They're even talking about using big data to offer business solutions, addressing new ways of working, boosting productivity. It's just they're diversifying beyond just building houses. The move into creperie could mean totally different kinds of tokenized assets someday, maybe fractional shares in office buildings or public facilities.
That is a big step beyond just houses.
It is. And back in rentals, they have this price leader strategy for their Shaw Maison brand, but it's not about being cheapest.
Right.
It's about offering more value through things like ZEH standards, built-in elevators, being environmentally conscious, plus adding IT and IoT tech into the mix, all while trying to stay competitive on price.
So using quality and tech to justify the rent, essentially.
Pretty much. And this focus on added value, it could lead to better occupancy, maybe better returns for token holders, hypothetically.
Makes sense.
They're also boosting their ability to build taller stuff mid and high-rise buildings using their flexible lowest system construction method. They say it speeds things up.
Okay, let's maybe zoom in on some of that tech.
Okay.
You mentioned ZEH Shakes. What else stands out?
Well, the smart ECS system is pretty interesting. It's designed to clean the indoor air, get rid of pollen, pollutants, even PM 2.5 particles. That's a big deal in cities.
Definitely.
And their Green First Zero houses are pretty cool. They're designed to be energy neutral, basically, generate as much energy as they use, using things like solar panels.
Energy neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a massive selling point now, both for the planet and the wallet.
Yeah.
Features like these really enhance the appeal, the long-term value.
Totally. Then you have their specific construction methods. Shea Wood is their wood frame system,
Okay.
but it's engineered for big open spaces inside, fewer pillars needed, uses special metal joints for strength. Plus, they use these Bellburn earthenware exterior panels, supposed to be really durable, look good too.
Wood frames engineered for openness and strength.
Yeah, that pushes back on some old ideas about wood construction.
It does. And then for steel frames, the lightweight ones, they have the dynamic frame system. Again, allows for big open designs. And it includes that Shakewise earthquake protection.
Right.
And uses these Dyne concrete walls, which are known for being tough. Again, adds to the building's lifespan and safety. Earthquake safety is obviously huge in Japan, so that makes total sense.
Yeah.
What about that flexible OS system for the taller buildings?
Yeah, that's for 3- and 4-story buildings using heavy steel frames. The big claimed advantage is speed cutting down time for permits and approvals and faster construction because they use pre-engineered parts. That kind of efficiency means projects finish sooner, which could mean faster returns if, these were tokenized investments.
Time is money in development, absolutely. So that sounds like a real edge. Anything else on the rental tech side?
Yeah, they have something called SHADD. It's a high-performance floor system specifically for soundproofing between rental units.
Ah, keeping the neighbors happy?
Exactly. Better tenant satisfaction, which helps keep occupancy up, keeps the rent coming in. And reacting to remote work trends, they've got these Shaw Maison work-life mix layouts designed specifically to support people working from home more. Again, thoughtful features boosting the property's appeal.
All these things, it really paints a picture of a company thinking about the resident, the end user experience, and trying to get ahead of trends. Okay, shifting gears slightly. What about after the building is up? Remodeling. property management.
Yeah, crucial part of their business. For remodeling, they're proactive. They pitch ideas for making spaces more flexible or making them more energy efficient.
Okay.
They even have branded programs like Family Suite Renovation or Aidakoro Dennetsu, which is about adding insulation.
Yeah.
It shows they care about keeping existing properties valuable and up to date.
So not just new builds, but helping people upgrade what they already have.
Exactly. And their property management arm, Sekisui House Real Estate, is all about building strong ties with owners, especially for those Sham Maison rentals,
Right.
and constantly improving services for tenants. Happy tenants mean steady income, right?
Definitely key for rental value. What kind of services are they improving? Any examples?
Get this, they've actually rolled out a system using blockchain called Nexchain.
Blockchain. For what?
For handling the pre-move-in paperwork for renters, it's designed to make that whole complex process much simpler, a one-stop shop.
Wow, blockchain for rental admin. It's
Yeah.
pretty forward thinking, streamlining things.
It is. They also offer subleasing services for owners who want stable, long-term management without the hassle. This whole end-to-end service makes them attractive to both owners and renters.
Right.
And for really long-term planning, they have Sekisui House Trust. That helps owners with succession planning for their properties, making sure things transfer smoothly later on.
Okay.
Plus, their brokerage business promotes something called Sumstock, basically, focusing on high-quality existing homes, trying to build a better resale market. This focus on the entire property life cycle, it suggests a real commitment to long-term value.
So involved at every stage, build, manage, renovate, resell. Lots of places to add value.
Yeah.
What about when they do develop things themselves, like houses for sale, condos, big urban projects?
Yeah, in their development business, the key phrase seems to be ROA-focused management, return on assets, meaning they're very strategic about where they buy land and what they develop. They're watching the bottom line closely on those investments.
Any examples of these developments?
Sure. Smart Common City at Kaishidai is one. It's a huge community development, really focused on safety, security, healthy living, like a whole planned environment.
Yeah, large scale.
And in condos, they focus on big cities. They're building ZEH standard condos, like one called Grande Maison Omachi One Comb Tower in Osaka. Doing ZEH in big city condos shows a real commitment to sustainability, even in dense areas.
ZEH condos. Yeah, that's impressive for urban settings.
Absolutely. And they do major urban redevelopment, too. Projects like W Osaka, the hotel, Prime Maison Shimokitazawa, Hirokoji Cross Tower.
Great.
Often they include hotels through partnerships, like with Marriott International. They're putting Fairfield by Marriott hotels in these Michino Eki roadside station projects, trying to boost local areas.
Interesting.
These big, often mixed-use projects really show they can handle complexity and create serious value in cities.
Yeah, those projects shape the city itself, much bigger than just one building. Now, you mentioned they're global, too.
Yep, they operate in the U.S., China, Australia, the U.K., and Singapore. And they tailor their approach to each market.
Okay, maybe hit a couple of highlights. What's the focus in the U.S.?
In the U.S., they're aiming for high-value properties, pushing their lifestyle design ideas, and building eco-friendly homes. They bought a company called Woodside Homes, and they're deliberately moving away from just competing on price. They're even trying out their Shea wood frame system there, trying to bring their unique thing to the U.S. market.
Right, higher quality, distinctive construction. What about Australia?
In Australia, they've apparently built a good reputation for quality and environmental stuff. They actually have a Shea wood factory there.
Oh, okay.
And they're pushing sales of Shea wood and their eco-friendly Shinka house. But interestingly, the report mentions labor shortages in construction there.
Yeah, that's a common issue.
And how Sekisui's pre-engineered housing could potentially help with that.
Pre-engineered homes helping with labor shortages. That's a smart angle. Practical application of their tech.
Exactly. And in the UK, similar idea, they've partnered with Homes England and Urban Splash. They're using their pre-engineered tech to help tackle the UK's housing shortage, shows they can adapt their core strengths.
So a global player adapting locally, that seems key.
It is. China is more focused on townhouses and condos under a specific brand, mainly finishing current projects, it seems. Singapore is about high-value condos with local partners, bringing in Sekisui's lifestyle design concepts.
Okay.
And across the board internationally, they stress local partnerships, developing local talent, and really pushing ESG, environmental, social governance principles at their overseas operations.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground. From their core business in Japan, global reach, that heavy focus on innovation. So, for someone listening, interested in maybe tokenized assets, what are the big takeaways from looking at a company like Sekisui House?
Yeah, I think there are a few really crucial points. First, you absolutely have to understand the underlying physical asset.
Right, the actual thing.
Exactly. In this case, it's real estate, houses, apartments, developments. Knowing how these things are actually conceived, designed, built, managed in the real world gives you a baseline for judging any token that claims to represent them. You gotta know what you're buying, fundamentally.
Makes total sense. Need to know the basics of what you're buying, no matter how fancy the wrapper.
Okay.
What else?
Second, the business model and the capabilities of the company involved are just critical.
Mm-hmm.
Sekisui House isn't just a builder. They're involved in the whole life cycle planning, building, managing, renovating, selling, understanding their different income streams, their strategy, their innovation focus, how they adapt. But that's all vital for judging their long-term health and, by extension, the potential success of any token linked to them or their projects.
So look at the track record, the health, the strategy of the organization behind the asset.
Precisely. And finally, their long-term vision for value creation and sustainability. That's huge.
Concept.
Well, Sekisui House's focus on quality building, integrating tech like ZEH for energy saving, their stated ESG commitment, it all points to a forward-looking approach, aiming for lasting value. When you look at tokenized assets, you want to see similar underlying principles, a clear long-term game plan from whoever is developing or managing it.
Okay, so how does this all tie back directly to tokenized assets for, listeners keen on exploring that space?
So think about it like this. Say you're looking at investing in a tokenized piece of a new apartment block.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you want to know who built it? What's their reputation like? What standards did they follow? Is it energy efficient? Understanding how a company like Sekisui House operates in the traditional market gives you a framework.
Yeah.
It helps you ask the right questions when you're looking at tokenized deals in similar areas, helps you maybe spot the difference between a solid opportunity and just, well, hype.
That's a really practical way to frame it. So the final thought for you, our listener, as you explore this world of tokenized assets, how can really understanding the traditional industries behind them, like real estate development, using Sekisui House as an example, how can that help you make smarter choices and spot the truly valuable opportunities?
It's really about grounding all the exciting new tech possibilities in the sometimes mundane but essential realities of established industries.
Right.
By taking that time to learn the fundamentals, what the asset really is, who's involved and what their capabilities are, what their long-term plan is, you can navigate this evolving tokenized landscape with hopefully a lot more confidence and make better decisions.
Excellent food for thought. If you are interested in digging deeper, definitely do your own research on Sekisui House and keep exploring this whole area of real asset tokenization. It's a fascinating space, lots of potential, but building that solid knowledge base first is absolutely key.
And just a reminder, disclaimer, I am not a licensed financial advisor. The information provided here is for general informational purposes only and should not be considered investment advice. Please consult a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.